Welcome to the Kintsugi Heroes Podcast, where we share inspirational stories of everyday people going through different challenges and how they overcome them. Please be aware that the story you're about to hear may have moments of deeply felt emotions and personal experiences. If anything you hear has a triggering effect, please reach out to someone who can help keep you safe. If you love this conversation, we'd love you to like and share it with your friends so we can continue to share more inspiration and hope to as many people as possible. Now, listen up for our next hero story. This episode is with Derek Rogers, a wonderful human who has been through a lot and he's been able to turn it around. He's been educating and coaching people in health and wellness and education in his early career, and he found himself all of a sudden, surprisingly, in a state of burnout and depression. He was a single father at the time. He talks about the way in which he navigated out, but the challenge for him was that he actually fell prey to the very things that he was teaching others not to do. It shows that it can be easy for us to fall into these traps because of our world around us and our society and how distracting it is and how luring it is to step off path and to not do the things that we need to do. Derek learned a lot about himself and he got through it with the help of the right people and support structures. And he talks about this in detail and he's got a lot to share. He's got a lot to give. And now he helps people with this every day. It's a wonderful conversation. I know you'll enjoy it just as I did. This is Derek Rogers. Hello, here we are. It's another episode of Kintsugi Heroes. I'm here with Derek Rogers today. Derek, how are you doing?
I'm excited to be here. Thanks, Evelyn. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share a bit of my journey today in the hope that it may resonate and inspire somebody else, particularly men, to look after themselves better.
Wonderful. And before we get started, I just want to thank you for coming and being willing to share your story with me, give up some time and energy because it's not always easy to go back and share our stories. It can be sometimes confronting, sometimes vulnerable, and these are personal stories and you're sharing it, with me live on air, and it's a great thing that you're doing. It's a gift to others, and I just want to thank you for that. So let's get started, shall we? I'm going to figuratively hand over the mic to you and ask you to take us back to the beginning. Where does your story begin, and take us through?
Yeah, thank you. So here's me, a single dad with two teenagers, working full-time as a teacher in a community school in Melbourne for kids at risk. So when I mean at risk of harm to them, harm to others, and harm by others. So these kids are pretty fragile, vulnerable, and pretty hard work, to be honest. And in fact, in hindsight, I was there for nearly 9 years, and I was one of the only silly ones, sort of, so to speak, in the end, who was working full time. Most of the others sort of juggled a bit. And so it, unbeknownst to me along that journey, it took its toll on me. And so I'm pretty caring guy and passionate about supporting vulnerable kids. And as a teacher, he was a school that allowed me to do that and bring out a lot of my skills and things. But also, I was a dad and had two teenage kids with me for not all of those 9 years, but for a fair majority of it. And so towards the, and I'd background with PE and health and outdoor ed, so always been healthy, always played team sports. And as I think, as I was saying to you before, that I think my calling in life is to be an educator in one way, shape or form, and be doing that for the rest of my life. So I'm passionate about doing that, but probably in a bit of hindsight, sort of too head down. And so, yes, unbeknownst to me at the time, I was sort of slowly heading downhill, burnout. But I was passionate about health and wellbeing, and I was running some workshops for my staff, concerned about some of them. And I had a principal who was on board and saw that. And then I tried to do the sensible thing as you start up a business on the side. He said, Derek, I can see you're really passionate about it. There's a huge need for teachers. Schools have systems in place for student wellbeing, but not much for staff wellbeing. And not much has changed, unfortunately. And so I thought, okay, I'll take a day off a week and start my own business on the side and do that. And then that was a Tuesday. But then other schools and companies would want me on a Wednesday and a Thursday. And and it didn't quite work too well. And he said, Derek, I can see you're passionate about this. There's heaps of work out there. Probably go and do it full time. I go, yes, that's my new challenge. Thank you, Simon. And so I left teaching. And then I got home all excited, but also I didn't really think about what I was leaving. So you tell me what's wrong with this equation, Evelyn. I'm in a high-performing team. I'm a team person. I'm a people person. And then I'll go and leave to start my own business from home in my spare room by myself. Can you see where that's going? And then after a short while, I'm thinking, why am I feeling so flat? Why am I feeling so tired? And I thought there's something wrong with me. And then as a typical bloke and a health teacher, there's nothing wrong with me. But I just have a bit more of a snooze in. I'll just have a bit more of a power nap today. And I thought, what's wrong with me? And then my partner at the time, she goes, are you okay? And I go, I'm just tired. Had a bit of a rest, and I had a bit of time off, had a bit of long service, and so I took a bit of time off, but I didn't recover. And then I said, well, you need to focus on what your new job is. So here's me. I gave up my work, which was my tribe. Saw them every day of the week, really connected, great bunch of people. Because we worked in a pretty vulnerable environment with the school kids, we would hug each other in the morning, good morning, and we'd hug each other at night time. So really close, connected. And then I'd sort of try and catch up with them a bit on the weekends and occasionally, but I sort of found myself disconnected quite quickly. I didn't know it at the time, but that's what I needed and that's what I loved. And so here I am in my own spare room trying to work on this new business. And often I wouldn't see anybody apart from my kids for a few days and partner who wasn't living with me, but we'd catch up. And so I just felt this flatness and it just increased. And then she said, well, what are you doing? And I said, I'm doing a bit of this, and I'm doing that. And she said, no, you need to focus on your business. And so I stopped seeing my mates that I used to see midweek. We'd have a Wednesday catch up and said, you need to focus on your business. And I thought, yeah, okay, that's right, new business. I need to focus on that. Too much socializing around. And so I stopped seeing my other mates. And then I used to play my sports a bit during the week and a bit on the weekend, and thought, no, you need to focus. All right, I'll stop playing those. Yes, I'll get really focused on this because I tend to get a bit easily distracted. But what I didn't know at the time was they were the things that also brought me joy. And so all of a sudden I've cut out in a short time all the things that brought me joy. I've cut out my tribe, the people I'm connected to and feel I belong to start something that I'm passionate about, but I'm finding I'm just struggling myself with my own energy. And so, of course, I started to spiral into depression. And again, I thought there's nothing wrong with me. And I had this real conundrum of there's nothing wrong with me. There is something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with me. Yeah. And I was just in denial. A lovely place off in Egypt, but no good to me in Melbourne at the time. Oh, God, what's wrong? I just need a bit more sleep. I need a bit more rest, and it just wasn't helping. And then the feeling of depression just got worse. This numbness, this just not wanting to do the things that I used to enjoy, and just wanting to curl up at home and and I remember, just struggling a bit with my kids and struggling just to cope. And it just got worse and worse. And then I had feelings of I just don't want to be here anymore. I thought, bloody hell, this is no good. I've got to do something. But I was too embarrassed to speak up. And I was just in too much pain. And there was just this numbness, but I just hated this numbness. And I thought, what do I do? What do I do? And I'm better off, the world's better off without me. I'm not doing anything. I'm not going anywhere. I can't get this business happening. I'm a failure. And so the self-talk started to spiral in the wrong direction. And then I thought, no, stop. You can't do this. You've got your kids. You've got a partner who loves you, although doesn't really understand. And I need to snap out of it. But how do I snap out of it? Do I take a pill? Do I have a cold shower? Do I get someone to slap me about? I didn't know what to do. And then I thought, surely I'll go online and I'll find something. And so I found this thing called a DASS test. D for depression, A for anxiety, S for stress. And because I practiced meditation and I was pretty good and had a healthy diet, and although I'd cut out my exercise and my connection, these two huge things, I thought I was doing okay and I was doing all the normal healthy things and I'd be fine. And so stress and anxiety were quite low, sort of 2 and 4, but depression, it was 24. I went, whoa. And it virtually said, go and see your GP straight away. Do not pass go. Go straight to your GP. And then I thought, I don't even have a GP. I don't see doctors. What do you need doctors for? What do they know? Typical male, arrogant health bloke. So I looked up one in the phone book near me, said, come on in. All right, come on in. And he did his own test and similar results. And said, I think, how about having a chat to a psychologist? Psychologist, what do they know? I've done some training. And I said, all right, I'm not getting the results. Then I'll sort of swallow my pride and said, right, I'm not getting the results I want for myself. I'll speak to a psychologist. He was really good. And he said, look, if you don't like this one, there's another one, there's 3, there's 4, there's some heaps of them out there, which of course is the opposite now with the last 3 years in COVID, where you can't get to see one. The waiting list is huge time. Anyway, I was grateful back then. And so I saw a psychologist and she was good. She said, well, what's been happening? And I said, well, I've been doing this and doing this. And then as I was able to speak what I'd been doing, I had the self-awareness to go, oh my God, Derek, you dick, you've just done the opposite things to keeping yourself well. How's your exercise going? Oh, I stopped doing that. How's your connection to the things you love doing? Oh, I stopped doing that. And how's your circle of friends? Oh, I stopped catching up with them. I went, oh my goodness, you idiot. So that was good. It gave me the realization of what I needed to do to get myself well. And then I thought, okay, ring. And I had a missed call from a mate. And in hindsight, it probably wasn't the most understanding mate, because I rang him back and he said, Derek, where you been? We haven't heard from you. And I said, oh, look, sorry, mate, I've just been not feeling well, been pretty flat. In fact, I've just been diagnosed with depression. You'll be right, mate. Harden up and come and see us. Yeah, great, thanks. He didn't really understand. And then the next mate I rang up, who'd had a missed call from a little while ago. And I said to him, oh, look, I've been missing you guys. And he said, well, come and see us, just come and see us. And he didn't understand that I now wanted to, but I actually couldn't get myself going. I knew that that's what I wanted, but just didn't have the energy to actually get in the car and go. And so I said, yeah, thanks, I'll be there, but really didn't have a plan of how to get there. And then the third guy I rang, and this is critical, I've learned that we need three friends that we can ring when times are shit and really down. The first person doesn't answer the phone. The second person says, I'll get back to you. And the third person answers the phone. And the third person, I rang him and told him what's happened. And he said, oh, mate, you got the old black dog. And I went, yeah. And he said, I understand. And he said, I'll come around now. And he had a shop. And he said, the girls can look after the shop. I'll come around and see you. Come on, we're going out for a cup of coffee. I went, oh, my gosh, thank goodness. Someone understood. Yeah. And he came and got me into, right, I was going out in the sunshine. So he knew sunshine was what I needed. Come on, we'll have socialise, cup of coffee, have a chat. And I was so grateful, Evan, because that's what, even though I didn't feel better straight away, he said, right, come on. And he rang me the next day, and he said, come on Thursday, we'll grab those golf clubs out of the garage. Come on, we'll go and have a hit. And he came and literally dragged me along, because that's what I needed. I needed to be dragged out of home. I needed to go in his car, not my car, and get out there and just start walking and talking and having a hit around the golf course. And so I'm so grateful that he knew what to do. And I just slowly got myself back in the positive direction, back up the hill instead of sliding down the hill. And then it was just, okay, I need to interact. And then I was able to do those little things. I was able to get myself out, and I was able to then get in the car and drive myself. And I'm so grateful for that learning of those two key things that for me were missing of fresh air and exercise and connecting with your mates. Sorry, three things, and doing the things you love. Otherwise, I might not have been here today. And so now, as part of my health and wellbeing training, I use this story, a shorter version, to particularly men when I'm doing workshops, and I say to them, this happened to me. Do you guys know how to keep yourselves well? And guess what most of them, the look on their face is? No. Yeah, they don't. They don't. So I'm grateful for that lesson. And I had some coaching and said, well, what if those months and possibly years of feeling flat and then spiraling into depression was actually a gift that you can now share? Wow, I hadn't thought of that. So it's life, as Tony Robbins reminds us, he says, life doesn't happen to us, it happens for us to learn from it and grow. So I'm grateful, and I do that, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to share wherever I can, like today. And so you would think everything would be all roses, and nothing would ever happen to me ever again because I would know what to do. Well, life has a funny way of testing us, and particularly the last 3 years with bushfires and COVID and floods. And then here's me again in Melbourne, just before the end of 2019. I coached my wife to leave another toxic corporate job and said, I need to get out of Melbourne, just need to get away. So we found a little place to move into on the Bellarine Peninsula out of Geelong. Quiet little sleepy fishing village, about 3,000 people, and that was lovely just to rest. And then we thought we'd go there for 3 or 4 days and come back to Melbourne and work. And then after a week, she said she didn't want to go back. And I've gone, okay, we can make this work. And I just probably 2 months before that rebranded myself, created a new business and organisation, and then moved to an hour and a half away from Melbourne and thought, okay, I'll connect with a new community, and that was in Geelong. I thought that'll be great. And then, of course, early 2020, COVID came in and we sort of shut down. And for me, being a people person, a team person, an extrovert, I struggled. And so the Zoom was okay, but it wasn't enough. I couldn't go out and play my golf. I couldn't go and see my kids in Melbourne. And it was just really hard, as it was for millions of other people. So I'm sure this is a familiar story. And then we moved when I was coaching people, a bit of online coaching, and said, now that you can work from home, where would you actually like your home to be? Do you want to drive for an hour for work every day, catch the train every day? And people said no. And said, well, what's stopping you? I coached my wife again to leave another toxic corporate job. I think it was in the April, May, and friends were renting a house up on the Sunshine Coast, and said, why don't you come up with us? And I went, honey, we've got a bit of time off. I've got a few days free. Let's make it happen. So we went up there, and we were rural Victoria then. We weren't Melbourne, which was in the hard lockdown, the Ring of Steel. And so we were able to go for a little while anyway. And so we went up there and we said, oh my God, this is, she says, beautiful. And I go, yes, I know, every time we come up here. And then probably because I'm getting a bit more in touch with myself, Evelyn, I said, actually, every time I come up here, it feels like home to me. And she said, you've never said that before. And I go, well, I'm saying it now. And I said, what's stopping us from living here? Why can't we live here? And so our kids are fine. My mum was going to move where we were in coastal Victoria. And I had the conversation with her. Look, we're thinking of moving to Sunshine Coast. And she said, I love the Sunshine Coast. Oh, great. So yes, we moved again. And it's such a beautiful world up here. But again, I had to start. And so here we are, that from that May, June 21 to the rest of 21, moved and packed up my mum's house, and sold her house, and moved and packed up and sold our place. Then had to buy a place online in Queensland without actually seeing it, just a little picture on the internet. And then you'd look at them and inquire 3 days later and they were sold. And you're going, oh my God. And so then it's just the stress of the month or two of trying to find a place to live, because we'd sold this place now and going to have nowhere to live. And so we bought this place sight unseen and thought, okay, that'll do. We'll just grab something. And then went back to pack up my mum's house for a couple of weeks before we drive up. And then the border locked down and said, you can't come up. We go, well, what are we supposed to do? All right, we'll stay at my mum's. We'll pack up mum's. So we stayed at my mum's not for 2 weeks, but for 9 weeks. 43 years of stuff, Evelyn, and stuff. It was driving me crazy. I'm trying to work at the same time. My wife just started a new job again. We're in the country, Victoria. We're holding our phones, using this hotspots against the window, standing on one leg, trying to get reception, and pack up my mum's house at the same time. And then work out how we're going to get to Queensland because we're now locked out. We don't have a home we can go to up there. Mum's house is now sold. We have to move out of that. So the stress was building up. Then finally it was 13th of December or something, we were allowed to drive up because we had a car's full. Didn't want to do the home quarantine. That was going to cost us like $6,000 and be very stressful. Stay in a hotel for 2 weeks. No guarantee of windows or fresh air. Oh my God, are you kidding? And we had to pay thousands for it. I said, don't think so. It happened. Surely they'll let us through next week. Surely they'll let us through next week. So all of this stress, anxiety was building up. So finally we were all able to move to Queensland, December 21. Unpacking over Christmas, our place. Then my mum arrives 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later. Unpacking, getting her settled in. That took like to April, trying to get supports for her. And probably middle of January, I'm pounding the pavement, trying to start my new business again up here. And so you can probably guess that I just started running out of petrol.
Sorry for the interruption. This is Ian Westmoreland, the founder of Kintsugi Heroes, and thank you for listening to this story from one of our amazing heroes. Our mission is for these stories to provide hope and inspiration to people experiencing life challenges, and to also educate the broader community on how best to provide support. If you would like to help us to continue to produce more hero stories and cover more adversity themes, we would welcome all donations. These can be made via our website, kintsugiheroes.com.au. The donate function is at the bottom of the homepage. We'd also welcome any feedback. You can email me direct using ian@kintsugiheroes.com.au. Now let's get back to the story.
Like most people, we have that Christmas break, Evelyn, to reset and recharge ourselves, have rest. That didn't happen for me. So I probably only had a quarter of my petrol in my own personal, emotional and physical tank, and then started the year of 22 last year with this much left in my tank. And so I was just, oh my God, I'm exhausted, but I have to get some new work and new clients and happen. But we had the beach. Good, I'll go down the beach, I'll swim, do some meditation. In hindsight, I was probably, I was just bobbing above water for most of last year. And then it was only towards the end in October, my wife went away on a 4-day yoga retreat. And I remember I had a new business coach then. I was setting up a different business brand. I was going to do my old one to be a non-for-profit for men's, and the new one targeted for small business, and working on that. I was working 10, 12 hours a day, but not really getting any financial returns. So then there was more financial pressure. And I remember talking to my business coach just on the day before my wife was going away on a 4-day. And he said, how are you? And I said, I'm freaking exhausted. And he said, well, take a couple of deep breaths. And he said, all right, tell me, what does your spirit need? And I go, my spirit's saying, stop, just friggin' stop. And he said, why don't you? And I said, because I've got this work to do for you, and we had these outcomes. And he said, here's the thing. He said, my mum hadn't come over from New Zealand, hadn't seen her for 3 years. She was coming over a little while ago. And I said, I'm so busy, don't really have time. Look, she can have my room. I'll work in the garage, and we'll just, I'll see her at night time. And then he said, no, stuff it. It's really important. I'll make time, see my mum, spend quality time with her, enjoy the time, and just hope and have faith that my business and my clients will understand. And he said, not only did they, but I picked up 2 more clients because I was in a better space. I went, oh my God. And he said, sometimes you feel like you're forcing and pushing things to happen. I go, oh yeah. And he said, when you stop and give yourself time to reset and breathe, you actually become in the receiving mode. I went, oh my God, that's what I need to do. Again, I know this stuff, but I wasn't doing it. I'm too much helping other people and caring for them, and I'll do this for you, I'll do that for you, that I wasn't looking at myself. Well, I was looking at myself in the mirror, and my bags under my eyes were just getting bigger and bigger. I'm sleeping 9 hours a day. Why why am I not waking up refreshed? And so I said, righto. It was only that I gave myself permission because my wife went away for 4 days, and I thought, righto, I'm going to have my own internal yoga retreat. And then Mark coached me and said, what would be the best for you? Meditating the waterfall, going to the mountains, sitting at the beach. And I said, probably just the beach. And he said, righto, let's go. And I said, what about all this other stuff? And he said, just reschedule your meetings, taking time out. Next 4 days, he said, I don't want to see you on social media. I don't want to see any appointments. I don't want to see you going past having coffee with anybody. I just want to see you stop for you. I went, okay, got it. So yeah, I went down the beach and I didn't hurry home. I stopped and I just walked on the beach and I practiced being present, not just for 10 minutes, but for, well, not 10 hours, but probably an hour or two. And I sat on the beach and then I did my breathing and I did surrender meditation. And then I felt myself lighter. And I thought, oh my God, all this tension in the back of my head and my neck. Oh God, it's starting to go away. And so I was getting some feedback, keep doing it. And so that night, I think, yeah, I slept 10 hours on the Friday night, 12 hours on the Saturday night, 11 hours on the Sunday night, because my body, my nervous system was saying, I need you to stop. And just had faith that everything would be okay. And guess what happened on the Monday morning at 9 o'clock? I got a text message from a CEO of a company that I had met a lady on the Wednesday morning before I took the afternoon and hence the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. And she said, oh, we're looking for somebody like you. And I said, oh, I used to do that years ago. I don't know. And just send me your CV. So I did it and completely forgot about it. On the Monday morning, the CEO says, which I didn't expect, said, if you get time for a cup of coffee, I'd like to talk to you about some training and some other opportunities. And I've just gone, oh my God, this stuff does work, because I was then in the receiving mode. And when I took his phone call, I felt refreshed and invigorated. I didn't have probably a tired sound in my voice. I didn't have maybe a tone of desperation. And it was beautiful. I've learnt that I need to listen to my body a lot more. I need to listen to my world and just going. And I know, again, it's not just me. There's a million other people out there, particularly in Melbourne and Sydney, given the last 3 years. I was reading a research from Australian Psychology Board, and they said that nearly a third of Melbourne and Sydney people are experiencing a form of PTSD. They're just glazed over, going about their business and just exhausted. And so I thought, oh my God, that's me. And so now I'm more mindful of what do I need to do. And even though the last few weeks have been challenging, I've got an illness with my family and a couple of other things happening. It's about stopping and taking care of myself more. How can I be of service to others if I'm not, the best myself? Yeah.
Wow, Derek, you've explained your story and told it in such an eloquent and reflective manner, but also just really heartfelt and open. I felt like I was right there with you through those moments. And so thank you for sharing what you've shared. I love how you've talked about that, just the learnings and what you've gotten from this. It sounded to me like there were some key moments on the journey where the pivot point to coming out of the challenge where you were either burnt out or depressed was when you had someone close to you or someone you trusted. Would that be the case? Was that necessary for you to get out?
Yeah, it's often we've got to, for me and probably for other people, learn I've got to get out of the way of myself, because I try and convince myself that I'm okay and to keep going. And it's only that trusted person who reflects back what you really know is going on. And then for me, it was giving me permission to acknowledge that I am feeling depressed. I am experiencing burnout. Don't worry about how embarrassing it is. Just acknowledge it, and then what you need to do about it. And having that support also, that it's, so one, that it's okay to not be okay. And then two, let's work through this together.
Yeah, really, really important. Can I ask how long ago was your period of depression?
So that was probably when I first left teaching. So that would have been 12 years ago.
12 years. How has that event, that period of your life, impacted all of the years thereafter and the work that you do today?
I think, yeah, I'm just so much more conscious of how particularly other men are traveling, and I can see through them more easily. And I've perhaps been drawn to more men when I'm doing training for organisations. That the old bloke will grab me and a little bit just tap me on the shoulder afterwards. Hey, you work with people one on one? Yes, I do. What's happening? And have a conversation with them, and then we often go from there. So that's nice that I'm able to connect it and be relatable. Have the skills now, first the empathy to understand a lot of their journey, and then also help them with the coaching training that I've got, and then also just the general well-being mentoring, if needed, to help them get back on track and be the person that they want to be and need to be for their life. Yeah.
Beautiful. You know, and what you're doing is so critically needed, and it's unique, but it's also not so. It's unique, but it's not unique in its need. As in, so many people need this. And as you were talking, I was just feeling into it and reflecting on it myself about me. And I've been through burnout. I've been through a period of depression, and the things that you learnt about yourself, I was just when you figured out that you weren't doing the activities, you weren't getting out in nature and you weren't connecting with people that love you, so you weren't doing the things that actually gave you the fuel of life.
Yep.
And I was thinking, when did I learn that? And I have to say, I've only learnt that in the last 2 years. And I don't think it's because of COVID. It just coincided with me meeting a couple of people that actually helped me, and they actually do a similar thing, but for women. And I thought, imagine how amazing our world would be if we got taught these simple strategies and structures of ourselves and how we operate. We are not robots. We don't operate on like a straight line continuum of energy.
No.
Every day we are different. And yet we're not taught that at school. We're not taught that at any time, really, unless our parents are aware. So it's no wonder these men are just going, well, I don't know about self-care. I don't know, anything of what you're talking about, because I don't think we've just not come from probably parents, or the generation of our parents didn't really have this level of awareness, but we do now. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and my kids do now, which are great, and it is changing slowly. And as my daughter reminded me, she said, Dad, the guys my age who, I've had 3 who have died, and they're not with us anymore. Others that are, I've got probably 5 wives that said, Derek, please coach them. They're just often not willing and open, but our younger generation, particularly in the teenagers to 20s, are, and they know they often don't want to be like their dad, and so they can see that he looks like a stroke or heart attack waiting to happen and stressed out, and so they want that life balance. They also want to start off on $100,000, but they. And great. They're more aware of their body and life than I was, and certainly and my parents and things. So there is a shift, and we're having these conversations today more than ever, which is great. But we've certainly still got a long way to go with men's suicide. It's gone from 8 up to 9 a day now, and 7 of those 9 are men. More women try. Men just go out and do it. So we've got to continue this conversation, but in a proactive way. Just on a side note, out of the 85 odd charities in Australia for mental health, most of them are all reactive. wait till you commit suicide, then we'll come in and do a talk. So these skills that we're talking about today, what do you need to do to keep yourself well? Unfortunately, we have reactive society, governments, policymakers, everything's reactive. We don't have a healthcare system, we have a sick care system. It's based on you being sick. So I have felt, particularly over the last 3 years, where the media was all, go and see a psychologist, go and see a psychologist, And guess what? Psychologists are now doing the coaching training because it's actually practical. It's very evidence-based, and it's the most efficient, effective way to change human behaviour. So I'm grateful for my training in it. And just, there's only, there's thousands of me actually who are trained mindset neuro coaches, International Coaching Federation accredited and trained. We need to be busier and working more and making a difference, because you're right, there are millions of people out there could do with it. So you don't need just a mental health nurse. You don't need a psychologist. Certainly you can start with your GP, and a 10-care mental health care plan, if you can find a psychologist, is an awesome initiative. But we can learn how to look after ourselves better, learn how to support each other better, connect better. And so I'm hopeful that we're having a more caring community going forward, where we will look after each other, given the last 3 years of the challenges that nearly everyone on the planet has faced. So I'm hopeful that there is that sense of more community and connecting and caring moving forward, Evelyn.
Thanks, Derek. I agree. And I think it's at the right time, and what you're doing is helping a lot of people, and you sharing your story today has come at the right time, and hopefully those that need to hear it will hear it.
Yeah, and that's it. You just I share it where I can, and as you said, those who need to hear it will be there, and we can continue the conversation. And if not for me, then I can refer them to somebody else. So it's got to be a good fit.
Absolutely. And just on that, if someone is listening to this who's, can resonate, and they want to reach out to you, your details will be on the show notes page on the podcast page, which is great. And I just want to ask you one final question, and that is, if there is people, and there will be people listening to this, who can resonate with that depression, with lack, all the things that you've talked about, the burnout, not looking after themselves, if there's someone that sort of suddenly got that light bulb moment and gone, oh my gosh, that's me, he's nailed it, what would you like to say to them right now?
I'd like to say that you're not alone, that there are many, many people feeling very similar feelings to you, and that it is okay sometimes to be not okay, particularly given the last 3 years. So be kind to yourself, look after yourself. There's lots of great information out there now to look after yourself, and if you do, and share with those people who love you, because they're probably wondering why you're not yourself, and maybe you've been told you to this or to that. So just share, and you'll find that those people who care about you will care, and those people who don't care, well, then they're not for you. And if you need some support, find someone who can stand beside you and has the skills and to help you move forward. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Derek. I really appreciate all of that and everything you've shared today. It's been wonderful.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me today, and keep on the good work that you're doing by sharing some beautiful stories that can enrich us personally and as a community.
Great. Yeah, you're welcome. It's a pleasure and an honour, as always. So thank you so much. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Kintsugi Heroes. Please like and share the show to your friends so we can get this out to even more people. If you have a story you'd like to share with us, please reach out using the contact details below. And join us next week for our next hero's story. Until then, keep being you, and remember that we are all heroes in our own unique way.
Only when it's broken. Only when it's broken. When it hits you in the middle when you're broken. Only when you're broken. Only when